CEO of WalletHub.com, Odysseas Papadimitriou. Odysseas, we thank you for joining us today on America's Forum.
It's my pleasure to be there.
So, Odysseas, you put together this study for the best and worst states for working moms. Based on what you've been able to find out, is it becoming easier or more difficult for women to balance career and family?
Well, I think in some respects it's becoming easier because there has been greater awareness to the pay gap between women and men. State policies seem to be improving. But on the other hand, it's becoming harder as well in certain dimensions. Everyone's lives are becoming more and more stressful. They're not becoming less stressful, unfortunately. The job marketplace is even more competitive, especially coming out of a recession like the one we went through. So all in all, I think working moms still have a significant uphill battle. And that's why, in honor of Mother's Day coming up this weekend, we thought we should take a look in terms of helping them make better decisions in terms of how to get the most on their careers while maximizing the time with their families and children.
So, Odysseas, I have to ask a question that is bugging everyone from Shreveport, Bossier City, to New Orleans, to on down in Baton Rouge. Why did Louisiana fare so poorly, coming in 51st in this assessment?
Yeah, that's really unfortunate. Looking at this, we looked at 9 different metrics, and in 4 of them in particular, Louisiana almost got the bottom spot. Those were the quality of the public school system, which is 49th in the nation, the number of pediatricians per capita, that's 43rd in the country, the state daycare quality rankings, that's number 48th, the quality of the daycare system, and the gender pay gap, believe it or not, it's 50th in the country. So there are 4 key metrics that Louisiana scored almost the bottom place. And then the only bright spot in terms of all the rankings is the cost of childcare as a percentage of a woman's income, which Louisiana was the 7th best in the country.
But even that was not enough to change where they showed up in the study. Let me flip it around. I'm taking a look here, and I see the District of Columbia number 2 on the list. And we take a look at what has happened in terms of what it costs for public education in the District of Columbia, the astronomical sums spent per pupil. We also know the federal government is there. For example, I used to serve in the House of Representatives. There is daycare on Capitol Hill for every employee there. District of Columbia, is it because it's the presence of the federal government and there's so much money that congregates right there within that small district that helped it with its metrics?
Well, yes and no. For example, on the cost of daycare, the District of Columbia is 49th in the country. So because there is a lot of money, because there is a lot of wealth, the cost of daycare as a percentage of a woman's income is almost a quarter of a woman's income goes to daycare costs, and that's brought the DC to the 49th. But on the other hand, you have the District of Columbia being top rated on a number of other metrics, including the gender pay gap, where it's almost 95%. So women earn 95% of what men earn, and that's the best rating in the nation. The ratio of female to male executives, it's number 2. The number of pediatricians per capita, it's number 1. The state policy regarding parental leave is number 3 in the country. So you have a number of other metrics that, or the quality of the daycare system, or even the public school system is number 14 in the country, where allowed them to overall get a much higher ranking than someone in Louisiana. But don't get me wrong, they also have their weak spots, specifically around the cost, around the average commute time, and the length of the average workday.
So you set up these 9 different metrics. A casual observer, such as yours truly, takes a look and we go, oh, the top 10, with the exception of Ohio under John Kasich, are states that basically embrace big government policies. Do you think your metrics, and we only have about a minute left, do you think your metrics were prejudiced in favor of activist government?
I do not think so. I think you're correct. Some of the metrics are more dependent on the government, right? But for example, if the public schools are good, that's an objective ranking. Whether the government is big or small, we looked at the quality of the school system. We looked at the quality of the daycare in that state. We looked at the cost. So we didn't look at any metric that was directly related to the size of the government, to activist governments. We looked at the end result. And I think the key point that I think you're trying to get to is that different people have different priorities. And so I think that's the key thing for working moms.
And that's where we're going to have to leave it right now. Odysseas Papadimitriou of WalletHub.com, thanks so much for your time. We're coming right back on America's Forum.